Um,
Start now, Coach. So
okay.
it's great to have you here, Coach, and I'm excited for your talk, for some ideas on quarterback, and I'm absolutely sure you will help our European coaches to step up their game at the quarterback position today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It certainly is an honor. I'm always excited to share my experience and anything that I can bring to the table to help anybody else coach or train or instruct or play at a higher level. And I'm one of those guys that feels very strongly about being very open to providing our drills and how we train quarterbacks. I know there are some guys in the industry that don't want to share information because they feel like that it could be stolen, if you will, or ripped off. But for me, that is the ultimate form of flattery, is for someone to take something that you do and apply it to what they're doing. So I'm very much excited when I see other instructors or coaches using any drills that we have. And for me, it's not thinking that it's been stolen from me, but it's been something that's used as a tool to help other young men to be better quarterbacks. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about is, I put a few points together for QB myths to bust, and really it is through that pressure in the pocket kind of situation. And the first bullet point is that the back leg must follow through on the finish when throwing. You'll see in a couple of videos that I have that the back leg does not always have to follow through. And in cases of pressure, I certainly want the quarterback not to follow through with his back leg. So, for example, if that's a right-handed quarterback, I don't necessarily want his right leg to come all the way around and through. I remember seeing several situations where quarterbacks feel like they have to protect their back leg because the pressure on the right side of the line of scrimmage is kind of being pushed back into them, and to follow through would make your leg vulnerable. So really the way that we teach our quarterbacks is to be able to drive power and force from a waist up mentality. So from the upper body to be very twitchy and snappy and have that torquey motion to be able to drive the ball. So we don't want the back leg to always follow through in the cases where it can't. And then the other thing that I always like to talk about is that the back leg always has to go first when moving backside. I know there's a very old school way of teaching that says if I'm a right-handed quarterback and I have to move to the backside of the pocket, so over the left side guard or tackle, that I'm always going to move with my back leg. And that's not always the case. For us, it is how we teach is more of a, if you've got a 275-pound guy running right at you through the A gap, there's not a rule in place that says I can only move with my back leg. So we teach our guys to move both with their front and their back leg. And then obviously I can touch on just verbally any questions that you have from how the arm slot might change, how you might throw a little bit more sidearm if you're going off platform to your left side as a right-handed quarterback throwing across your body, or whatever questions that we have. So I'll just go through this. It's a short presentation. It's just about 10 slides. So as I said, the first one is that the quarterback must follow through with his backside finish, and the backside always leads moving backside. And then we'll finish with a little Q&A. So the myth is to generate power, the back leg should always finish through by coming to a stop where the front foot is planted. And the truth is that, throwing is a rotational movement. It's not linear, and linear meaning forward or, downhill. So power is generated from the ground, but the core and upper body is where the torque takes over and provides the most power. So we teach our kids that if your legs aren't in the ideal position, can you still generate power with an upper body rotation? And our fact is that rotational movement, athletes who use upper body torque for power, a baseball swing, a tennis racket, forehand swing or backhand, a golf swing, all of those are rotational movements. And those movements don't bring their back leg around as a form of follow through. Think about driving a golf ball, right? Think about standing at the tee box and standing with your feet planted, your back foot and front foot are firmly in the turf, and you swing your golf club and you drive through. In no way, shape, or form does your back leg come around. It simply rotates around. So you turn on your toe a little bit. And so hopefully this video will play for you. So this is Roger Federer. And what I want you to notice is how he drives torque and power, but it's not necessarily through his lower body. So his back leg turns, but it doesn't necessarily drive power. So you're going to see right here, force, and the ball is gone, and his back leg doesn't necessarily come around. So that's a very upper body motion. This next movement is Mike Trout, who's a home run hitting baseball player for the California Angels. And you're going to see his front foot, his front leg pick up. He's going to step that back down. And then his back leg isn't going to follow through, but his toe simply turns over as he throws. So I'll play that for you. And you'll see this in a minute. Picks up, sets his front foot down, and as he drives power and torque, his back foot stays connected to the ground, and it's a very upper body rotational movement. So again, I'll play that again for you so you can see that. So a lot of power behind his swing, but his back foot stays connected to the ground, okay? This is a little bit harder to see because of the angle. It's kind of a zoomed out, but you'll notice that that quarterback right there is Jacob Eason, who played at Washington University, University of Washington in Seattle, and was just recently drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. So as he throws, you're going to see
To run toward the sideline, try to pull
you're going
your
to
defenders
see
there. That was well done, and now he's into the end zone. A week ago.
So look at some of these videos.
He's in the far.
Okay, watch his back leg as he throws.
Eason off the play fake, throwing 6-1 into the end zone. It is caught.
So all upper body rotation.
Gonna throw for it, and it's caught. Inspiration, good for Washington. Got it. Right there. Nice. That is touchdown. That's Aaron Fuller. Boy, that pass was good.
So I'm going to play that really quickly again for those of you that want to see it again. And I want you to understand, like, in some of those situations, there's a little bit of pressure coming at him. So he's not driving his back leg through his throw. He's not following through, which is a little bit more of traditional, old school mechanical thinking. Okay, I'm going to play this one more time.
Toward the sideline, try to pull your defenders there. That was well done, and now he's into the end zone. A week ago. He's in the far. Eason off the play fake, throwing 6-1 into the end zone. It is caught. Flip all the way back to Eason. Gonna throw for it. Inspiration, good for Washington. Got it. Right there. Nice. That is touchdown. That's Aaron Fuller. Boy, that pass was good.
So that's a little quick clip of some throws by a guy that that I really like, that has a lot of, first of all, he's a really good sized quarterback. So he's got a lot of physical, natural muscle and strength and power, and he's really maximizing it from his upper body. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is moving backside in the pocket and always leading with your back foot. So let's talk about that real quick. So what you'll see is moving to the backside of the pocket or outside of the pocket, you always lead with the back foot. And the truth is, the assumption is that the back foot first allows the front foot to set down and then strike to the target to throw. So quarterback coaches that will teach back foot moving first will say that if the back foot moves first, the front foot can then strike to your target in the throw. But how often do you throw immediately moving to your backside? So, when that's not the case, I want our quarterbacks to be able to be trained to move both using the front foot and the back foot. I want them to be, multi-versed in that. So when observing the highest level QBs, so many move their front foot first, back foot second. And so I'm going to play you just a little clip from Joe Burrow moving more often to his backside with his front foot than with his front foot or with his back foot first. So I'll play this twice again for you, but really try to pay attention not so much to the throw, but to his feet.
Alabama, that was the worst loss for LSU. They were shut out by Bama 29-0 this season. The throw into the end zone, touchdown, Justin Jefferson. What a throw by Joe Burrow. Demons drop back, Burrow trying to thread the needle. And he does it again. Terrace Marshall. Wow, what an emergence, huh? Yeah. His dad, a longtime coach in college football, and here's his son going deep for another touchdown. Derek Dillon. Burrow to the air again. Gets rid of the pass in time. It's caught. That's another touchdown. There's the fake. There's the lob. There's a run. Did not show any signs on those two runs. Lamar Chase now lined up on the left hip of Burrow. Feels the rush so well and throws for a touchdown. Terrace Marshall after the quick checkup when he hit his head.
So I'm going to play that one more time. Bear with me. I appreciate it. And watch some of the arm angles on this one now too. So we can talk about that in our Q&A. You're going to notice as he goes to his backside, to his left side, that sometimes he looks like he's throwing a little bit slashy sidearm. And I teach our guys to throw with different arm angles. I mean, I don't feel like there's one arm angle, that classic over-the-top Tom Brady type of throw that is applicable for everyone. So when you're in a situation where you can't throw in that manner, you've got to be able to change arm angles. So if you can, watch his upper body a little bit more on this one.
Alabama, that was the worst loss for LSU. They were shut out by Bama 29-0 this season. The throw into the end zone, touchdown, Justin Jefferson. What a throw by Joe Burrow. Demons drop back, Burrow trying to thread the needle. And he does it again. Terrace Marshall. Wow, what an emergence, huh? Yeah. His dad, a longtime coach in college football, and here's his son going deep for another touchdown. Derek Dillon. Burrow to the air again. Gets rid of the pass in time. It's caught, and it's another touchdown. There's the fake. There's the lob. There's a wide open. Did not show any signs on those two runs. Lamar Chase now lined up on the left hip of Burrow. Feels the rush so well and throws for a touchdown. Terrace Marshall after the quick checkup when he hit his head.
So you can really see on that last one against Oklahoma that he gets very slashy sidearm. And again, I'm completely okay with that. So some of the things that we want to do to promote some of those game-like habits, the no back leg follow through. So what I'll do is I'll put a quarterback on a blocking bag and I'll stack two of them lengthwise so that it's probably, 8 feet, 10 feet of bags beneath his feet. And obviously one foot will be on one side of the bag and one foot will be on the other side of the bag. And I'll just have him straddle it and go up and down. So forward and backward laterally. So I'll have him move front foot and back foot first. So we'll have him move to his front side with his back foot leading, and we'll have him move to his front side with his front foot leading. And we'll have him move backwards with both feet moving. We do, when we throw, we do a back foot connected to the turf. So if you look at some of my Instagram posts, what you'll see a lot of times are our quarterbacks, they take their right toe, if they're a right-handed quarterback, and they leave it connected to the ground. So I don't want them having a big high leg kick and coming over the top. So the back leg follow through, we can promote that not over rotating by staying connected to the ground. And the other thing that I'll do is a bullet stick is it's a pad that's got a stick on it. It's probably, I don't know, a 4-foot PVC pipe kind of thing. And as the quarterback throws, I will put that bullet stick down on the ground. And as his back leg starts to come forward, I'll stop it with the bullet stick. So I won't let his back leg follow through. And so what I try to do is I say to him, imagine your right side guard is blocking a defensive tackle, and he's getting kind of pushed back into you. And as you throw the football, you don't want to follow through and let your right leg come around for fear of that defensive tackle throwing your offensive guard into your leg. So let's keep that leg protected. So I'll hold the bullet stick and keep his back foot pinned behind him. It forces his upper body then to rotate. So for front leg movement, so what we'll do is we'll rip and step with front leg. And what that means is we'll send some A and B gap pressure at him. And what we'll do is I will take the quarterback and have him move to his left side, his back side, and I'll force him to use his front foot and take the ball and protect it. So imagine the quarterback is in the pocket and he gets A gap pressure, and the A gap pressure is coming to his front side of him. So right at the ball. So you wouldn't just stand there and allow the ball to get knocked out of his hand. So I'll have him take the ball and rip it across his body, use his front foot, so his left foot, to move to his backside, and then to reset his feet and set his line to his target. And the other thing that we do, and you've probably seen this on some of my Instagram videos as well, is I'll simply take a quarterback and put him on the 20-yard line and have him straddle the 20-yard line, shuffling and backpedaling down the line. So I'll move him to his backside in much more direction than he normally would. So if he's in the pocket, he's probably only going to move a few feet. Well, I'll literally take him and start at one hash and have him backpedal all the way to the other hash. And when he gets to the other hash, he throws. Or I'll have him shuffle, where he's like shuffling his feet down the line. So we'll do a couple of those different types of drills to promote that. And all this is in regard to pressure in the pocket. So everything that we're doing in these drills is to create game-like real scenarios for pressure in the pocket, and how do our quarterbacks adapt to those. And we feel like that the drills that we instruct in this situation allows them to successfully maneuver through pressure situations when those actually do happen in game-like scenarios. So I tell our quarterbacks all the time, we might rep a drill over and over and over again, and you may use it once in a season. And if it's just that one single time that you use it, then that to me is a success. So I don't care if it's something that happens every game or if it happens once every 5 games. So we want to be able to be prepared. And you'll always hear me tell our quarterbacks, this is about adding tools to your toolbox. So, you open up a toolbox, and if there's only a hammer in there and you need a screwdriver, well, you're in deep trouble, right? So we want to have every tool possible in that toolbox. So for us, it's adding tools to your toolbox so that when you go out on the job site, there's nothing that comes to you that's a surprise. So that's kind of how I like to think with our quarterbacks. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to thank you guys again. It's been a real pleasure to be able to share some of that with you. Again, that's just a small little snapshot of what we do, and so that's pretty much what we've got. So I'll stop sharing my screen and kind of go right back into the regular mode for you guys. So if anyone has any questions, obviously I'm all yours, and I can answer anything I need to.
Yeah, Coach, that's amazing. You gave us great insight. We have some questions in the chat box. How do you like it? Do you want to read it on your own in the chat box?
Yeah,
or should
I just go into the chat box? Okay. can we generate enough deep balls? Can we generate enough power on deep balls without the back leg following through? And how can we teach an index finger release? So those are very good questions. So what's funny is that first question just came, that scenario just happened last Saturday. So I've had the pleasure of, if you guys know the brand Battle, Battle is owned by a guy named Chris Circo, and Chris has a 8th grade son named Sebastian, who I've been working with on and off. He doesn't live in Chicago, so I don't see him as regularly as I'd like to. They live in Omaha, Nebraska. And if you know the United States, that's about, I don't know, 5 hours away from me. So it's not very accessible. And so I don't see Sebastian that much. And they played a game in Milwaukee, about an hour and a half away from us last Saturday. And I went up to Milwaukee to see Sebastian play. And in his pregame warm-up, he was throwing post routes. And as he's throwing post routes, I'm watching his back leg, his right leg, come very high up off the ground, almost like a pitcher in baseball whose high leg kick comes over the top and then sets back down. And Sebastian is not a very large kid. He's actually a little bit smaller in stature. And I told him, I said, I have a feeling that you think to throw this post route, this deep ball, that you need to generate more power by taking your back leg and kicking it out of the ground. And I said, what I want you to do is I want you to take your back leg, stay connected to the ground, and really just try to rip your shoulders and your upper body through and see where you throw the football. And he threw the exact same distance the very next throw simply by closing his shoulder and generating more upper body torque. So there are situations, so you will see quarterbacks throw like Hail Marys or really, really deep balls where they get fundamentally unsound. It almost looks like their mechanics are totally going out the window. And those are different scenarios, right? Like you see Aaron Rodgers do some things that he probably shouldn't do normally when he's throwing a really deep ball to maybe try to end the half or win the game on a last second Hail Mary. But in general, I think your deep ball and maybe your mid-range ball, you should kind of have the same, almost the same mechanics as you would throwing a deep ball versus a mid-range ball. So I definitely feel like the follow-through can be limited with the back leg and still generate enough power. And all that takes is repetition and training your quarterback to have a very, just to be able to have confidence that they can generate power from that upper body snappy motion. If you look on my Instagram, I've got a picture of Aaron Rodgers throwing against the Minnesota Vikings, and his back leg stays totally behind him, and he still generates enough power. Now, it's not a deep ball, but it is a very, it's a zip. I mean, he zips it right into the end zone. So that scenario can certainly take place. Sorry, I went on a little bit too long with that one, but how can we teach index finger release? So one of the things that I'll do is I'll have a quarterback throw and take his pinky off the football. So when he has his grip, he lifts his pinky off the football. And what that's going to do, it's going to force his index finger to have more pressure on it. So when your pinky is off the football, your index finger will compensate. So when you've got all 4 fingers, not counting your thumb, but all 4 fingers on the football, sometimes it's hard to have the index be the main source for that. So when you take your pinky and bring it off the lace, what immediately happens is your index finger starts to get a little bit more pressure on it, so you can get a little bit more release. So another question, why do they did it in the past, and what makes coaches to chance that? I'm guessing
Yeah, coach, I write it down in a better way. It was in that situation. I want to ask why do they coach the back leg follow through in the past, and what are some of the benefits of that?
Oh yeah, okay, I see it. You've rephrased it as I've gone down.
Yeah.
The back leg follow through in the past. So what I see when I look at trends in quarterbacks, what I see happen in, for example, the 1980s with quarterbacks like Dan Marino or Joe Montana, in the 70s with Joe Namath, in the 60s with Johnny Unitas. So the way that I see quarterbacks throw and the mechanics that they use in years past, I don't want to say they become outdated, but I almost feel like the position evolves and athletes evolve. So, for example, if you look at the way that a quarterback took a 5-step drop from under center back in like the late 60s or early 70s, there was almost this like backpedal, right? The quarterback almost like backpedaled back in the pocket. And why don't you see that anymore? My theory is that edge rushers like the Khalil Macks of the world and Aaron Donald and these guys are such phenomenally fast, explosive athletes that if you simply backpedaled, you would probably put yourself in a bad situation. And so, like today's quarterback, I just feel like that the athlete has evolved. And so the idea of following through with the back leg isn't necessarily the end all be all in terms of mechanics. So follow through and power, I want to say, are more have evolved in terms of, you don't have to necessarily use your lower body to follow through as much as you did in the past. And I look at it like, look at a basketball shot. Like when you looked at, I don't know how familiar you are with American basketball and the NBA, but look at the way that Bob Cousy shot a jump shot in the 1960s. Nobody shoots a jump shot like that anymore. So, I feel like the athlete has evolved, positions have evolved. And so coaches in the past have taught that. And what I feel like is happening now is that coaches are evolving. They're moving from old school to a little bit more new school. And like I said, if you've got an edge rusher coming at you from the right side and it's a high level athlete and he's driving your right side offensive tackle back into you, would you want to bring your right leg around on your follow through and fear that left side, that right side defensive end throwing your tackle into you? So I feel like the lower leg thing has evolved to protect our quarterbacks. If you look at when Tom Brady tore his ACL, I believe it was game 1 several years ago, and I'm not exactly sure of the scenario, but I do know that a lineman got thrown into his leg at the last minute, at the last second. So after he threw the ball, he got a late hit lower. And like I said, I can't just remember exactly that situation, but that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about. That vulnerability, I guess, from a defensive lineman that could pose a problem in that situation. The second part of the question is, what role do the rotation of the hip plays in the throwing motion? Would you suggest young coaches focus when coaching the QB position to have that on their mind? Absolutely. So you can still drive your hip and your waist into your throw without bringing your back leg through. So think about the baseball player that I just showed you. His hip still drives into his bat swing, but his lower body, his leg, his toe doesn't come around. So that hip strike is tied directly to your core. And so the hip and that area of your body definitely plays a significant role in power for driving the football. And then the third part of the question is, what are some of the escape lanes you coach your QBs, and how do you teach their eyes during pressure situations in the pocket? So that's a great question. We train every single lane possible. And when I say every single lane, what I mean is I'll have a quarterback drop back, and I'll literally have him run straight into the A gap. So imagine the defensive linemen have all taken outside lanes to pressure your quarterback. The ends and the tackles have both come outside. So they're pressuring outside. So the only way to go is running up into the pocket. So we train our quarterbacks to take off and run straight forward and still be able to throw downfield. And the biggest thing that we teach them to do when they're doing that is to flash their shoulder. So as they're running, they're not just throwing with their chest open. They are flashing their shoulder and driving through as they run down the lane. I've got a great shot, a video of Kyler Murray when he was at Oklahoma, running down right down the pipe against Alabama and throwing a 60-yard ball down the seam for a touchdown against Alabama. So he gets pressured off the edge, and he has nowhere to go but straight down the middle. And as he's running down the middle, he throws down the field. I also have another clip. It's on my Instagram. It's probably a few years old now, and it's of Andrew Luck doing the same thing. He gets pressured off the edge. He runs straight down the A gap, and he throws to his right to an open receiver standing right on the front pylon, and he walks into the end zone. So we'll train that lane. We'll train running up into the pocket and then to the outside. We'll train running strictly outside the pocket. So, I mean, every possible situation you can imagine, that's what we train. And again, this is all about tools in your toolbox. So I tell our quarterbacks, so how I train them is we'll work an hour session specifically on mechanics and fundamentals for the first 30 minutes or so. And then the last 30 minutes will be specifically pressure in the pocket or drops, drop backs, and then escape and throw on the run. So it's about training our kids to be completely prepared no matter what situation comes up. Let's see. Will your shoulder suffer in the long term when you don't use power from your back leg? So that's another great question. You will get shoulder issues if you don't use your entire upper body. So what I'm not saying is that you should just throw with just your arm. So think about, so when I tell our quarterbacks from a training standpoint for strength, I tell them to definitely work on their core. So a lot of ab work, a lot of hip flexor work, a lot of strength in the hips. And so for me, it is when using your upper body, make sure that it's a complete upper body rotational movement and not just an arm movement. So your arm only has so many muscles and power in it. But thinking about now maximizing your upper body, your chest and your core, your back even. So it's a complete upper body rotational movement and not just an arm throw. So your shoulder will suffer if you don't maximize your entire upper body. How can we train upper body rotation? So the way that I train our quarterbacks, the first thing that we do in our warm-up is we'll stand with our toes facing our target. So we'll have both toes facing our target. So our chest will be facing our target. And what I'll have them do is completely turn and throw and rotate. Turn and throw and rotate. So I really want them to maximize that shoulder closed to shoulder through. So it's a complete 180-degree rotational movement. And if we train our quarterbacks to use that entire upper body for their rotation, I find that in a real rep, it transitions like one from the other. When we talk about practice, how much time do you use in your overall individual time to practice movement in the pocket and throwing under pressure? Again, that's what I touched on a little bit earlier. That's a great question. So for me, here's what I always ask my quarterbacks this. I say, how much percent do you feel like pressure will be involved in your experience playing the quarterback position? Do you think it will be 50? Do you think it will be 75? And almost across the board, everyone says at least 50, and most of them say about 75 or 80. So if 75% of your experience playing this position is going to be under pressure, and your trainer isn't using at least half of your session to train with pressure in the pocket, that to me is a big miss. So we will train at least half of our session in pressure situations. And I don't try to reinvent the wheel. All I do is I'll watch NFL and college football games, and I'll see quarterbacks that will be under pressure in certain situations, and I'll think to myself, hey man, I've seen this different thing happen over and over and over again with different high-level guys. What kind of a drill can I design to make our quarterbacks then have to react in that situation? So the drills and exercises that I do aren't anything that I necessarily made up. It's how do I see the position happen in a real scenario, and how can I then design a drill that looks just like that? Because if it's happening in the NFL and major college football, I certainly want our quarterbacks to train that way as well. And a cool factor for me is if I show them Trevor Lawrence doing something. So I just showed you, here, let's use this as an example. I just showed you a video of Joe Burrow moving in the pocket to his backside, and there were probably, 8 videos in there. So if I show that video to a 17-year-old kid of Joe Burrow moving that way, and then we design drills and we call this this is the Joe Burrow drill, they're going to love that. They want to do the Joe Burrow drill because Joe Burrow's doing it. So when a high-level guy is attached to a drill, it makes the quarterback feel like, hey, when I train with Coach Greg, we're doing the same drills that Joe Burrow's doing out on the field when he's feeling pressure. So there's a cool factor attached to that a quarterback can go, I'm being trained the same way Joe Burrow moves. And, I'll be honest, the competitors that I have that are training quarterbacks in the Chicagoland area don't train the way that we train. They don't train pressure in the pocket. They don't train movement traits that the highest level guys are doing. It's a very old school vanilla way of training. And that's probably what has helped differentiate us from those other two guys. So, for me, it's how can I stay cutting edge and forward thinking to be able to train kids who want to be trained like today's professional athletes. So it's not a difficult equation to figure out. What's the difficult thing to figure out is how creative can I be in my training without making up something that isn't replicated on the field. So the last thing I want to do is train a kid and put my Greg Holcomb stamp on it just to put a Greg Holcomb stamp on it. I don't want that. I want my quarterbacks to be simply trained the way that high-level guys are being trained, and I'm just going to do what I see happening out in the field professionally. I think that's all the questions that I see.
Yes, I don't see any other.
Okay.
We have everything covered. Coaches, do you have any other questions? If not, there were all my questions. I think that was really great to hear your thought on pressuring quarterbacks. From what I see is we most practice only throwing motion. We don't do anything under pressure, and I think that's a very undercoached aspect of the game, especially from what I see here in Germany. So that was really helpful. What you taught us, and you gave us some great points where we can start to evaluate what we are doing at the moment, how much time we spend with practicing quarterback play under pressure. So I'm really thankful for your time, Coach. And if we don't have any other questions. Yeah, it's up to me to say thank you again, Coach. And I hope we can talk in the future too.
Absolutely. I would encourage you to go and follow my Instagram. I post more videos of pressure in the pocket on Instagram than I do on Twitter. So there's a lot of good content on there. Again, I feel strongly that we shouldn't hide our drills and try to keep them for our own, that we should share them so that hopefully other coaches will use them. And and you know, and import them into their own training. And there's one more question. Do I plan on a visit to Europe for a clinic? I would absolutely be more than interested in doing that. If you had a platform for me to come in and sit in on some practices or, get in with some coaches to talk about some things, I would absolutely love to do that. I've been to Rome, Italy, and not for football purposes, but just for a vacation. But I would be very, very interested in coming over to your area of Europe and helping in any way I possibly can. So yeah, let's talk about how we can make that happen. And I certainly would be interested in sharing some personal experience out there with your staff and some of your players.
Yeah, that's amazing, Coach. I think we should have that on our mind. Maybe when all the coronavirus stuff is gone a little bit and
Yes.
um, there's a little light in the future. And I think we have some clinics here. We have clinics with American coaches. For example, in Bavaria, there is a big clinic with international coaches. I think they had two D1 coaches the last year here in Germany. So there's absolutely a chance to that you can come over and speak at a clinic here.
That would be great. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. So thank you very much for your time today, and I hope we can stay in contact. And yeah, let's talk ball on another day too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure having the opportunity to talk to all of you, and I certainly look forward to continuing to chat in the future and help these kids and young men be better quarterbacks and hopefully better young men in the process too.
Yeah, Coach. So thank you very much, and
Take care.
have a nice day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.